with expertise ranging from A-level and ASC certified master tech, shop advisor / manager to automotive trade school instructor and technical writer. He is highly sought after in the industry, who has been published in both the US and Europe. JB currently serves as the Director of Education at Bolt-On Technology, the leading provider of automotive software solutions. For more information, to get in touch with JB, please visit www.boltontechnology.com. And we just thank you for being here today for our Lunch and Learn.
Well, I thank you folks for having me on board, and I hope today's lesson that everyone takes something away from it. So if we're ready, I'll get started. I'm going to share my screen here, and just let me know. You should be able to see my PowerPoint as of now. Everybody can see that? All right, cool. All right, so basically what we're going to be doing today, I'm presenting the fact that we should be, all right, come on, don't break on me. We need to talk about customers and digital inspections, and that's what today's topic is. We always have to remember that not only do we have to learn how to do things and how to use things, but we also have to bring the customer in. And one of my experiences about being out in the field is seeing shops where the customers don't know anything about the inspection, and what happens is they're not going to get the full results of doing that. So that's what this is about, is that I want to show the benefits of making sure that you have customer ready inspections and that your customer is ready for the inspections. Because again, it's that little bit of information that's going to make a big difference in how your customers take this and how they use it to both their benefit and your benefit. So congratulations. I'm figuring if you're on board that you may already be into digital inspections, because that's what this is mostly applying to. And because you made that leap, you've done the training and you've got your digital inspections up and running, that's what seemed like that would be everything. But as I've already alluded to, is there's another part of this equation that we have to think about, and that is the customers. Do the customers know about these inspections? Do they have any idea what these inspections can do for them and how they can actually benefit from it? All right. And do they know that that inspection is coming to them? So we're going to discuss all the different little things that you can do as a shop to bring this to the customer's attention, so that when they get the inspection, they're expecting it and they know what it actually is. So customers and digital inspections, I think that they fit together like hand and glove. And once the customer understands and knows the importance of these inspections, that they're going to be using these things to educate themselves. And also knowing not only to use it to educate themselves, but also to know what they can do in these inspections to see everything that the technician is trying to put in front of them. And you know what? I liken the idea of doing digital inspections and sending them to customers as to taking a customer out to their car in the shop. I worked in a dealership, and I know that as a shop foreman at that point in time, that almost any customer I took out into the shop and showed them what was going on and letting them understand and see it themselves usually was what sold it, because it broke through all those things that they didn't understand, and being able to see the coolant leaking out on their head or whatever it might have been made a big difference. And I see the inspections being able to be sent to people as a similar thing to walking the customer out into the shop. So the key piece, walking the customer out in the shop, is you're educating them. Well, the inspections also are going to educate customers. As a matter of fact, we now got to flip that over and make sure that we educate our customers on inspections. So what do I mean? Well, what do I mean and how do I want to do it? Well, the first thing is many shops that are using digital inspections have a variety of different inspections. And one of them is the one that they go out and they note how the car showed up, the drop off, tow in inspection. Well, this would be a great time to go out to the vehicle with the customer and show them you actually doing an inspection, walking around the vehicle and documenting body damage, et cetera, and being able to show the customer right then and there exactly what you're doing. And you can educate them on all the little things that they're going to be able to see when you send the inspection to them. So many of the different inspections out there, you're going to take a picture of the car. So that means you're out there with the customer. And what better time to do that? And also, in states like Pennsylvania, where we have inspection and whatnot, going out and identifying whether to have vehicles inspections in or out. That's another way that you can introduce your customers to these inspections by actually showing them how you're going to go about doing that. And that's going to build a comfort level. As a matter of fact, one of the other things that it does for you is that because you're out with the vehicle and the customer, you can note any damage and stop paying for body work that you're not responsible for. And that's another key piece to saving your shop some grief and money by being able to do this. Educating the customers can be done many different ways. You can have a tablet in the shop when the customer's dropping off with an inspection on it that you can show the customer and take the time and point things out and show them what they're going to be seeing. You can have an inspection that you can send to the customer immediately where they can open it up and both of you are looking at the same thing at the same time and you can walk them through it. And this may seem to be overkill, but the thing is a lot of times the customers don't realize what they're getting, and we want to be sure that they do that. And why am I talking about this? Well, because in my time with travel, and here we are, last time I was on the road was vision of last year. When I do my normal traveling, going to shops, we're in shops that use the software, and when we ask the customer, do you ever get an inspection? And they're like, no. And that's kind of like, why is this happening? Because these things benefit everybody that's involved. So we want to be sure the customer understands how to read these inspections. What the swatches are pretty obvious, but also the text and everything that's on there. And we want them also to be aware that there's pictures. And when it comes to pictures, we too, and I'll go through this in a few moments, we have to be sure that the pictures that we take are communicating to the customer what we want them to understand. So inspections need to be driver friendly. That's one of the things that we have to be sure that we do, because when we are building these inspections and the different inspection types that are out there, many of them have can notes and recommendations. And we have to remember that the idea behind this is to educate the customer on what we're trying to bring to their attention. So these notes and recommendations have to be put down in what I call customer speak, so that they can make sense of it. We don't want to be putting in stuff that we understand that they don't, because it doesn't achieve the final goal. Additionally, we want to be sure that we use pictures and videos. We as human beings take in 90% of all our daily information through our eyes. And having pictures and videos on the inspections going to do that for our customers. As a matter of fact, think about this. With the COVID situation that we're still dealing with, many people were online shopping. They're no longer going to stores. They're no longer going to different places and checking out goods. They're literally going online and looking at pictures, which means these companies that have the best websites and the best pictures are the ones that are going to make the sale, because that's how we're doing it now. And the inspection uses that same idea that everyone's doing with shopping, is by putting pictures in front of them so that they can look and see what's going on. We also want to be sure that when we're doing inspections that our customers know what they're actually getting one. When you send an actual message out to a customer and it appears on their phone with just a random phone number and a link, they might get nervous and dump it because they're afraid of it. So you have to be sure that you let them know that it's coming. And here's the thing. It's crazy, but shops invest in these inspections, and there are individuals in the shops that never share them. So your technician goes through all the steps and the advisor supposedly goes through the steps, and then it gets sent out to the customer. Well, if they're not being shared, and this is a common thing, so there has to be ways of monitoring this put into place to make sure that if we're doing the inspections and sending, we better be sending them out, because they're not going to work otherwise. When we're talking about the inspections, and we're going to be going through these items, you want to make sure that they answer the customer's questions. In actuality, we want to have so much information up there that the customer doesn't have a question. We want to stop that in the beginning. So if your inspection's built and done in such a way that your customer doesn't have any questions, that's key, because when you're trying to explain these things over the phone with no pictures or anything involved, that's pretty difficult. One of the examples I give sometimes is, how do you describe to someone that is blind what red is? How do you describe red? Well, you could say it's warm, but does that really get the idea across that those of us that see red and know what it is, that they see that same thing? No, they just get this connection to warmth, and that doesn't necessarily make a color work. And that's an extreme example, but the point being here is using pictures and these inspections to put in front of our customers going to make that explanation a lot easier. Another key piece to the inspection, and this is something I always mention because people say, oh, it takes too long, et cetera, is are you setting these inspections up in such a way to bring your customers back? One of the things that I like to have shops do is build a comprehensive inspection, or the first inspection, that's extremely involved. And the reason behind this is that you're going to check the vehicle out and record it as it is today. And over time, you're going to tell that customer, I want you to come back and come back and come back. And we're always going to be able to look at what your car was on the first visit and see how your tires and brakes and things are wearing. And having the evidence and showing that wear is going to be part of what builds the trust between us and the customer. Because, when they show up and you tell them they need $900 worth of tires, they're not necessarily ready for that. But if we've been doing these inspections properly and keeping them in front of customers and going back and showing those customers that wear pattern as it goes, we're going to be bringing them back just to do that. And secondly, we're going to be bringing them back where they're going to do this, and they're going to be able to prepare for that future service. That's the idea. I think one of the pieces of the puzzle that a lot of people miss is that we want to take pictures, as I always say, as the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we want to show something good today, and we want to show it as it works its way to being bad and needing to be replaced. And hopefully the customer is going to be prepared for that when it comes in. So one of the basic things, even though you may be doing inspections already and whatnot, is that we want to go to the basics of the inspection, and that is the inspection point. Now, mind you, all the different systems that I've seen out there do have inspection points. That's what are we looking at? What are we finding? What are we recommending, et cetera? And that's why I'm going to talk about it right here. So it's a 4-point process, and that mainly applies to items that are yellow and red, items that need to be dealt with or need to be warned about. They're going to have 4 steps. And the first step, of course, and there's no specific order to this, is color swatches. What swatch represents how important it is to get this thing done today. Then the tech note, what did you find? All right. And remember, this is what the customer's reading. So it's got to be in customer speak so that they can read it and understand immediately. State inspections do. I mean, there's no other way of saying that. And then what do we recommend that we're going to do on this situation? Pretty straightforward. We got to do your inspection. And of course, back it up with a picture where you've not only showing that the stickers are expired, but you're going to note that picture and make sure that they understand what you're showing them. All right. So it's pretty straightforward and it's pretty good. And on a red point and on a yellow point, we're basically going to have those 4 steps. On a green point, though, this is where I get a little bit of pushback. On many inspections, you can tap on green and just walk by it figuratively and not give a recommendation or anything like that because there isn't anything to give. And not even take a picture of it. But here's one of the things that I think is important about the digital inspection, and that is building a balanced report and going back to showing that customer things wearing out. You can't show that if you're not taking pictures and sharing information on things that are good. And the other thing to keep in mind too is the fact that you're noting that you looked at this item, you actually have a tech note there that it was good at this time, and you're showing a photograph of that item being good. There's not going to be that liability when a customer turns around and says, hey, you looked at my car, but you never looked at this. Because if you don't put a picture on there, if you don't put a description on there, and you just hit a green check, it's just like doing a paper inspection. You never can prove that you looked at it. But if you've taken a picture and you put in a tech note in there, and remember, a lot of these things are canned, so they're pre-built and they go right in, you can add that right up there and give that balanced report. And let's take a step backwards too. The idea behind a balanced report is not to hit the customer over the head. As an advisor, as an advisor, I remember, holding up the paper inspection to a customer and saying, hey, how would you like us to do our free courtesy inspection? And the customer go, no, you guys, there's free things. They cost me a lot of money. And that was because when I, as an advisor, and I know a lot of us are guilty of this, we used to get it and look at the red and yellow items and mark them up and put together all the information on that. But we never really balanced it out with the stuff that we found good, because there was a lot of work involved in getting that in front of a customer. So the digital inspection hopefully is going to change that approach. So watch the swatch. And this is another part that's very big: consistency in the swatches. You need to sit down with your staff and make sure that as their technicians are looking things, that we're all looking at them through the same lens. Okay. If it's green and it's good, well, what in your shop, and I'm not putting any figures out there because I understand that in different parts of the try that again, in different parts of the country, due to the way the outlay of the land, if it's mountainous and whatnot, you're going to have different requirements. But the point that I want to make here is that wherever your area is, where is your green going to end? Because, it's brand new, it's green, but how far down are those brakes, those tires going to wear while they're still green? And you're going to have to make that determination. I mean, for example, brakes in a mountainous area, you may want to be a little more proactive with them going to yellow because of the amount of braking that's going to be done going down hills. And you also want to make sure that all your technicians, when they look at these things, are seeing them the same way. The other thing that I think is good to do is relay that information. Not only do we have a green swatch here, but we're showing here that this is in the green zone and life is good. So we're going to follow up with that, and the customer is going to make that connection. We want to assign benchmarks again from green to yellow and making sure, are you going to do it in measurements in millimeters or 30 seconds, or are you going to do it in percentages? Because measuring in millimeters in 30 seconds, well, different brakes come at different depths. So how does that work? So a percentage will work, but who's going to be able to figure out the percentage? So you have to, it's a tough thing to come up with, and there's not enough time here to discuss all the ins and outs about it, but to know that you want to be sure that when a vehicle leaves today and you tell the customer they're going to need brakes in the future, that on the next inspection, when they come in and another tech looks at it, says the brakes are fine, you won't need them for a year. And you know how we run into that occasionally. That's why I want to be sure everybody's on board with the specs of what's green, yellow, and red. And also taking pictures of the objects that you're doing and measuring them. I like to totally reinforce that, as you see here. And then having a definite definition, I had really repeating, having a definition of what actually fails is very important to make sure you put it in front of people, because that's the liability thing there too. And how can you take the pictures again to match what the swatch is? Well, here's a perfect example. Using that feeler blade that's red indicates, what we're talking about, the depth of the actual brake material. And taking pictures. That's the big pieces I already mentioned about the digital inspections, is the pictures and video. So you definitely want to take pictures, and I highly recommend, again, taking pictures of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you want to use them as much as you can. Doesn't mean you need to overload the customer with 30, 40 pictures on inspection. No, as a matter of fact, statistically, with our customer base that we use, and that's over 5,000 shops across the country, 12 to 15 pictures on an inspection has the highest return in sales. Now, that's an average across the whole country. Some areas it's a little less, some areas it's a little higher. And know what? Even in cities, certain sections of the city, it's going to be higher and lower according to the neighborhood. But this here seems to be the good number. And it's 12 to 15 pictures, and it's not just red and yellow, it's green being included in those. And we find that statistically, shops that do this are having the highest return on those inspections and boosting their ARO because of that. And again, remember, it's a visual thing with human beings, and that's what we're using to our advantage. And when it comes to taking pictures, we got to be a little creative. And also we have to remember that we see these things through our eyes, which, we're technicians, we're advisors, we're people that have worked on vehicles for a long time. We want to be sure that when we take a picture, that not only do we understand what we're trying to share, but we want to make sure that the customer knows what we want them to know. And I can show a customer this filter, and of course it's dirty, but we know this thing's filthy, but the customer doesn't necessarily know that. So what we suggest is that when you are taking photographs to share with your customer, that you are taking photographs to give them something to gauge it against. Now, I know it's impossible for your shop to have the right filter, but here's what I suggest in this situation is that you have an off-white filter. You have a white filter, great. The ones that you see most often, and get the smallest ones that you can, so you can lay it right on top of the dirty filter and show the customer, this is what it should look like. This is what yours is. Because remember, we still need to educate them about what we're doing here. You're when you're talking about the cabin air filter and why they got to keep the cow clean, there's people who drive around like this all the time. And here's an example, and they don't realize all that debris is falling back there and getting into the HVAC system and could future cause all sorts of issues like water coming in. Explaining to them and showing a picture so they make that connection, even though they sit behind us every day when they're driving their car. And then not only taking pictures to say, hey, we got a problem here, but many of the different software programs out there that do digital inspections give you different ways of marking things up. So you can do this freehand, and some of them have the tools that you can do it, make it look a lot more professional. But drawing on these pictures and showing the customer exactly what you're trying to relay to them is important, because again, they may not understand our point of view until we make it simple for them to understand. And video, all right? You can explain all day that you got extra play in that bearing, but in this situation here, you can show the customer and tell them that wheel isn't supposed to move that easily when you're grabbing it from top to bottom. So being able to relay things not only through pictures and video is pretty important. And also one other aspect about video, and it's not coming through, usually it doesn't in these presentations, is that there's audio available on the video. So for example, if a customer brings in a vehicle with a noise, you can use video to record the noise that you've identified. And if you can identify what's causing it and send that to the customer, and now they can actually see a video and hear the sound, and your description could be, this is what we found, this is what it needs, and this is how much it's going to cost. That communication between your shop and the customer is the ultimate, because how many times have you fixed the noise that wasn't what the customer was looking for? I know I've gotten caught in that bad one a couple of times. So you need to spend some time to talk about these inspections with your customers. You want to prepare them for the inspection that's coming and let them know. And again, there's many different ways that you can do this. You want to discuss the method of delivery, and that's actually pretty important because many of the companies that do digital inspections, you can text and or email these inspections to that customer. And if you've not prepared the customer for either that text or email, there's a good chance they're never going to see it. I mean, I can honestly say that 99% of the phone calls that I get in a week, 99% of them are spoof or spam. And some weeks it's 100%. So when I see a message come up that I'm not expecting, or it's a number I don't know, I'm going to not look at it. The same thing, look at your email. How many spam letters do you get every day? And texting, they're trying to do their best to keep that from going that direction. But during the election, how many times did you get texted out of the blue and you're like, I don't want this. So you ignore things. So you have to let customers know that you're going to use those methods. All right. So if you're emailing them, be sure you do that. And here's the thing with fleets, I would be very big in sharing with them via email. And the reasoning behind this is that when you send that link to the inspection itself via email, that company, that fleet can take vehicle 1B and put all their inspections in the 1B folder. And that way they can actually watch the vehicle going through its wear and tear. And hopefully they can see, like last time it was in, you said it was getting close on brakes, and I looked at it, let's get them done today. So you get a pre-approval from it right away. But here's the flip benefit for a fleet. Eventually those vehicles are going to be taken out of service and sold. Imagine the value that could be added to it if you can show a full digital pictorial history of all the services and everything that vehicle went through while it was under your roof. That, I think, is a very big thing for fleets. And that's why I suggest emailing, because when you text it, you're going to be sending it to the fleet manager's phone, and it's just going to get lost. So you might want to think about that. And be sure that when you're sending these via text that your customer's prepared. All right. And there's another thought process. Some people still like the feel of paper, so be prepared that some of your customers may want you to print these out. And I know that's going to be a big deal, but you got to kind of, what's the word? You got to please the customer because they're the ones that are keeping us in the job. And if they want it on paper, I'm going to use the paper. I mean, I see it as a no, I can't even talk today. I see it as a no-brainer. All right. So you need to avoid, and this is what this is all about, the unknown sender syndrome. Because if the customer doesn't know you're sending these, that's exactly what's going to go. And that's exactly how the spoof and everything works. So you want to be sure that your shop info, especially if you're texting a customer, is in their contacts. All right. If it isn't, when that text message comes through, the person's going to be like, I don't know who this is. And they're going to ignore it, just as I already discussed. And there's a good likelihood they're never even going to look at it. Text messages have a 99% open rate, and that 1% represents the ones that people don't know. And that's pretty crazy to think about. So having the ability to give your customer your contact information, so it's on their phone, and every time you send a message to them, JB Automotive comes up, is going to change that situation. Because when you have that conversation and you send that contact card, there's contact cards that you use in email, there's contact cards that you use on phones, and you can send this to a customer, and with just a couple of taps, every time your shop sends them a text message, it's JB Automotive. And you can train the customer that when they see JB Automotive, their car's in, that they need to get back to you. If they see JB Automotive and they're not in, they need to look because there's an appointment coming up. And that's going to solve that unknown contact kind of a thing that I just discussed. I already brought this up. Are the inspections actually being sent? Okay, this is an in-house thing. And many of the different inspection softwares have a way of monitoring what's going on. And in this case here, it was shared and the customer looked at it. Can you always expect the customer to view it? No. But when you see something like this, where it's neither shared, the customer doesn't have a chance to look at it, why are you investing the time and the money in doing those inspections if that's what's going on? Because the outcome here is not going to be that great. Now, statistically, just to let you know what we see, is that if you can get up to 70% of those shared, that's really big. And the reason there's a number, not 100, is because sometimes you're generating repairs and stuff like that that don't have inspections on them. So you have to account for them. And when your customers are looking at them, if you're getting well over 50% view, that's really good. So those are things to keep in mind as you're sharing these inspections. So I already mentioned answer your customers' questions. For example, do I need tires? So if you've done the idea where you're taking pictures of the tires from the day the car comes in to the day they're brand new down to today, you should have a countdown. And I like to say it's the countdown to retirement. Get it? Retirement. But anyway, so you have the countdown to retirement because what you've been doing is drawing in 30 seconds or millimeters on the tires and showing the customer that number decreasing. And it's basically the countdown, right? And if you're reinforcing it by using a tool here where it shows that it's definitely getting there, the customer understands. And back to that whole thing of preparing them, this is not going to be a surprise. All right. And there's another key piece to having your customers come back to your shop. And that is selling to a current customer. You have up to a 65% chance of selling them something because they've built trust and they're coming back to you on a regular basis. When it comes to new customers, you only have a 5 to 20% chance of selling to them. So building that connection with a customer that where they're going to come back to your shop for the inspections is one of the parts of your education. And the other thing with the inspections, now on the paper ones, what happened? The tech filled it out. You took the information, you built the estimate, you try to sell it to the customer. And you know what? I'm guilty, and I know a lot of other people are guilty. You never took that stuff that the customer didn't approve and got it on the repair and kept it in front of them. So part of the inspection is anything that's recommended or needed that's not dealt with should be put right in the management system. And as you can see here, they're being put right in the management system automatically. And that way, all these due dates and all these items are now built into the calendar in your management system. Matter of fact, you can actually send a link to a customer, whereas they can put this in their calendar on their phone. You know what? Here's one that I find kind of important to me. Is I shouldn't have done that yet. Is the state inspection. Because, I got it done today and I almost forgot it. Here we are, it's the beginning of the month, and maybe I expired back in February, and I forgot because I'm too busy to do that. Well, now if I have a system in place that when I do the inspection at your shop today, and that's part of the actual, the inspection because we're doing it, and you set next year's appointment and I get a reminder beforehand, there's less likelihood that I'm going to be late. And these are the things that build that trust because, man, I was too busy to think about it, and now I know they get it. So do your inspections also, and I kind of did this, prepare them for the future service. Again, everything that you do there are these inspections, putting these things in, or you're depending on your people to do it. And another part of it, of course, is that once they're in the management system and you're sharing with customers with invoices, that you point these things out, have a customer conversation, an exit interview. It's got to do it. And this here, I think, is one of the biggest pieces. I always got these big pieces and things of that sort, keys and all that. But I like to call it aware history. I've talked about it a few times, and let me show you exactly what I mean. Taking pictures of the good, the bad, and the ugly. So there's a couple of things about this picture, and I want to be sure I share that when we're talking with our customers, we have to remember sending these to our customers. We may recognize the caliper, the rotor, the brake pad, backing plate, et cetera, piston, but a customer looks at this, has no idea. But there is one very big piece of information here, and that's green, and green is good. So we're telling the customer that, they may not recognize everything else, but there's your brakes and you're in great shape today. So taking pictures of the good, as now you're going to start understanding what I'm talking about. And then other angle, same hardware. We recognize the customer doesn't, but guess what? Doesn't their eyes immediately get drawn to the yellow? And yellow is at that point that we're getting there. We can recommend them. If you want to get them done today, we can do them. If not, we figured the way you drive in 6 months, we're going to be needing to do them. So we're starting to set them up for that next visit. And of course, the final visit and the time that hopefully all the stuff that we've done here has prepared the customer for is that they're going to see they need the brakes. They're going to understand they need the brakes, and they're going to know that this was coming. So hopefully that they've prepared for this. Well, I like to say financially and mentally prepared for this brake job. You have a better chance of selling to someone that's expecting something than someone that has no idea you're about to tell them you need it, especially if it's an expensive proposition. So the idea behind the inspections is when it's all over and you've sold the work to the customer, that you can still have that inspection and share it with the customer. When they're at the shop, you can actually pull it up on the screen and go over it again with them if you wish, or you can even send that inspection again to them in the future or today and have them take a look at it and go over the details with them so that you can set them up for that next visit and what's due in the future. Think about the trust that's being built here, because you can always prove what you said since you've been showing the customer right along. You can take them through there and make sure they see everything that they need to know. See what's coming up here, like in this example here, some damage to the mirror, you make sure you go over that so that they don't blame you for it. And even show them on some of the inspections, no matter how you build them, that their next service is due. And having that conversation in the shop or outside by the car, it doesn't matter. It's having that conversation with the customer and letting them know about the inspection and understanding it. That's what's going to make all the difference with these. So to kind of wrap it up, your inspections need to be driver friendly. So when you're building these things, remember, you're giving them the people that some may only know how to put the key in the ignition and turn it. Some of them can't put gas in the car and whatnot. So you have to think that when you're designing these and when your technicians are filling them out, that they're driver friendly and they know exactly what you're trying to communicate. Consistency is very important, because if you don't have the consistency, you won't have trust. And we all know how it is, when you're not consistent, or you have one tech look at something and they condemn it and the next tech says it's good. You know how all that happens. So we have to be careful about those things and try to make sure that we set our people up to be consistent. We want to convey awareness of the inspection that is being done and that it's coming to the customer, and that we really would like them to look at it and see what's going on, because we want to be able to get on the phone and discuss that inspection with that customer and make sure they see what we're trying to tell them needs to be done or not to be done. We want to be sure that because we're investing the time in these inspections, that we're setting these up to bring those customers back. We're showing them, hey, you're good today, but you're probably going to need it then. We want to be sure that we put those recommendations that are not done in front of them and keep them in front of them so that they can know that this is coming. All right. And we want them prepared for the future service. And finally, oops, that's not where I want it to be. And one of the things I want to point out to this, all right, if you look at this list here, realize this. Your dentist and probably your doctor already does a lot of these things. They're letting you know that they're going to send the reminder. Before you leave today, they're setting up your next appointment. They're telling you what you're going to need done on the next time in. You're going to get x-rays, you're going to get your teeth cleaned, we're going to pull them out, whatever. And they're going to prepare you for all this. And we know that works really well for them. So why can't this work for us? And why can't we be sure that our customers are prepared to do that? So with all of that in place, I would like to say thank you very much for being on board. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take any in. And there you go.
Great. Well, thanks, John. And anybody that, if you don't have a mic, you can put a question in the chat also for John. So does anybody have any questions for John?
Thank you, Carl. Appreciate that feedback.
Good, thanks. That was good.
Yeah, a lot of information to digest while you're digesting your hoagie or whatever, right? You guys know what a hoagie is?
Oh,
Yeah, he said hoagie.
He said hoagie.
all right. Well, hey, thanks again, John, and great presentation, and glad to have you. John's spoke to our group many times at ATE, and we sure appreciate all of their support. So thanks everyone for being on, and don't forget, on the 25th, we'll have another Lunch and Learn, and have a great day.
All right. Thank you again. Take care. Stay well.
Thank you. Thanks, Brenda. Thanks, Jeff.
you.
All right.